Welcome back to my Magical Girl Nymphs and Goddesses series. For this video, I'll be taking the classic 4 earthly elements and turning them into elemental nymphs. They will be personifications and guardians, overseers, and creators of these elements. This was an exercise in trying out a new art style process, and it got out of hand. I was practicing shape language, various body types, skin tones, all sorts of things. I hope you like the outcomes of this experiment. Water. The lifeblood of life itself. Where there is no water, there is usually no life. I wanted to express the various moods of this water nymph in her personality, shape, language, and expressions. I also wanted to take inspiration from the Muslim hijab and dresses, as their styles and patterns can be absolutely beautiful. The earth is covered in roughly 71% water, which ties into this clothing choice as well. I gave this gal a teardrop-shaped dress and irises, and I made her eyes more downturned. I included 3 different expressions: neutral, excited, and one of anger. Water is a deadly, powerful element, one that molds and shapes the earth, yet is gentle enough to provide life to all that require it. Tides, waves, storms, everything reflects the water's moods. One day the sea is glass-like, calm and forgiving. The next, it has turned into mountains. I struggled a bit with the colors of her dress and hijab, and eventually settled on this glowing, ethereal pattern with bubbles, while her hijab has white reflective decorations. I was given some amazing suggestions to include more colors to represent sea life, such as coral, but I decided to stick to purely classic watercolor, blue. As I was finishing up, I was struck with the idea of giving her glowing henna on her hands, representing her power and connection to the sea. Here she is. I am very pleased with her result. She looks almost exactly as I envisioned her, and I had a lot of fun deciding on how I could use her looks to reflect her element. I was also super pleased with her little nose, and it's different than the rest, but I think it makes her all the more memorable and unique. Earth was a struggle for me. I started off envisioning her covered and draped in moss, but it seemed far too close to Flora's design. You should go watch that other video, by the way. I designed flora, funga, and fauna. I forgot what they're called, like kingdoms. Yeah, well, anyway, I made them as people. You should go check out that video. Anyway, I wanted to fully embrace the materials that Earth provides, such as metal or coal or valuable ores. I posted something to ask what I could do for her, and thank you all so much for your suggestions. They made Earth what she is today. Honestly. Someone suggested plate armor, others brought up geodes, and I was in love. Now, I do wish I'd included the geode crystals a little more fluidly in the design, but this was the best I could do. She took me more than 12 hours. Before I delve too deeply into discussing her clothing, I want to talk about her shape. By this time, I had done several pear-shaped bodies, and I wanted to try a very sturdy hourglass. I made her feet and hands larger and gave her an underbite and a wider nose. I was originally going to subvert expectations by making her a tiny little thing, but I gave up on that and just went with what my heart and sister told me. Her muscles are defined and sharp, and her face is adorably blocky. I decided to keep the moss element from before in the form of a mohawk on her hand, like a rock star, and gave her some geode crystal earrings thanks to a suggestion on the post. And onto her clothing. I'm very pleased with how her armor turned out. This was unironically some of the best ever armor I have designed and rendered. It's far from perfect, but I am smitten. I love how tightly it fits together, how the crystals bring out most of the color, complementing the green. I'll probably get points deducted from Deja 2 for leaving her thighs bare, but I really think it did her silhouette good. Her eyes match her armor as well. I think I did the layering effect of a geode iris very well, and the rendering of the crystals, I am very pleased. I think I did good. Turned out very well. Brag. The more I look and talk about her, the more happy I am. I could have done some things better, but she turned out so well for how clueless I was for the majority of her design process. Her eyes are gorgeous, crystals are peak, armor is tight. I hope you guys are just as happy with how she turned out as I am. When I tell you I struggled with fire, I struggled with fire. I had an idea in mind to make her shy, unlike the usual portrayal of a fiery, confident character. She's nothing like that. She wibbles and flutters and flinches at harsh breaths or at air or at drops of water, and she doesn't attack unnecessarily. I had the idea of giving her the darkest skin of the bunch and a slender hourglass shape. I will say this now, giving her the darkest skin was the best decision ever. She is stunning. Her hair stands out wonderfully against her face. She's just a shy beauty. That decision worked out great, but my gosh, her clothes were something else. I drew her before I decided on an overarching medieval theme for all the nymphs. I tried a puffy sweater, short skirt, a scarf, everything. I wanted her to be covered. Like a shy girl would probably not flounce around in tiny little scraps of clothing, but I had so much trouble deciding on a color palette for her clothes. Dark, light, does it stand out too much? Does her silhouette look silly? I finally settled on a hooded scarf, a long sleeve shirt, a diamond-shaped skirt. I decided decided to include a lot of pointy angles, just like fire tongues. Her clothes represent hot embers, burned wood, or coal, having a reddish tint that fades to burned-looking black. Her eyes are little glowing fireballs, and I added bright yellow stitches through her dress to tie everything together. Her fangs also glow and wibble like fire too, representing the bite of flames when you get too close. Now onto her hair. Another struggle. My original vision was a bouncy dreadlock-like locks or her tiny braids, but goodness, I had trouble getting the textures correct. I think I'm gonna headcanon that her hair changes textures depending on the moods or seasons. Tight curls some days, straight locks the next. Her hair is untamable, just like fire. I added some dark beads. I just love the look of beads woven into hair, and these resemble burned embers matching her outfit. Here's the final look. She's got a shy stance. I like that she could put up her hood to hide herself when she's feeling extra nervous, and I think the pattern stitches look so cute. I love her little corset, the fade of her dress. Also, this is my cue to ask anyone watching to take a fancy dagger and threaten the like button, and maybe even brandish it at the subscribe button too, if you like what you see so far and want to see similar content. The air nymph was super fun to brainstorm and make. She's physically based on me, sort of. I'm a little different. Very short with chopped spiked hair. She's a bit of a spitfire, loud when she needs to be, soft-spoken when appropriate. I gave her a trimmed, athletic build, signifying her swiftness and bitty fangs to show that the wind can bite too. She's confident, almost cocky, and the symbol of pure freedom. You can't ever trap the wind, and she knows it. I envisioned air as very pale, almost translucent, and I played around with her outfit colors a lot before I settled on the final look. I knew I wanted her hair and lashes to be pale, but in order to make her eyes really stand out, I darkened the sclera and made her irises white. I gave her a translucent cloak and pants to resemble air forming around her, like clothing almost, but it's also see-through. And beneath that, I clothed her in a more athletic-looking outfit. I wanted to symbolize the paths of the wind in a way, so I added draping jewelry all around her body, making it swoop and curve like the flight patterns of birds and angels. At first, I made the jewelry white, and her fit was almost gray against her pale skin, and I struggled a lot with the colors. Air is clear. How exactly can you make invisible clothing? Eventually, I settled on white, and I think that was just the absolute best decision I made. She looks so light and swift, so detached from the darker colors of the earth below. Now, as I was decorating and pondering, I noticed, well, how empty her design seemed. All the other nymphs had symbolism all over their bodies, in their shapes or hair, but she was a bit blank. Like, I couldn't really make her— I guess I could have made her bald, but I wanted to show wind in her hair, like wind tussled or something. She's a bit blank. That might have actually been better, because the air is kind of empty a lot of the time, but I wanted to try out some flowy, swirly tattoos. I found some on Google, imported them, and played around with blending styles until I was torn. I loved the look of the tattoo sleeves, but I also liked the simple swirls of black along her skin. I eventually settled on both, and she honestly looks really cool now. I love how she turned out, and I hope you all do as well. She looks brash and carefree, snarky, everything the wind itself can be. She's also just shaped. Short little gremlin nymph, very friend. I think I did very well in subverting the expectation that she would be tall and flowy and lanky, while still making her truly look like she could rule the wind. And at last, we have reached the second wave of whatever this is, magical girls. If you liked what you saw, please do consider showing me via a thumbs up or a sub. I'd be very grateful. If you have a favorite of the bunch, or if you think you'd have done some things differently, let me know in the comments. I'm always curious about people's thoughts, favorites, preferences. I had a lot of fun experimenting and pushing the boundaries of what I thought I was capable of. I think the series is going to bring me into a new era of arting. I'm already integrating the habit of placing down blobs for shapes before I begin line art, and I would recommend it. It's a very fun process. If you've reached the very end of this video, thanks for staying so long. I hope you'll stay for the remainder of this series. My last video of Magical Girls will be about celestial bodies. Also, in case I manage to show some fan art, this is me talking over me showing fan art. I have to blab. I have to show the fan art. Someone drew me as a banana. How can I not show you that I am being drawn as banana? Also, I'm a dragon, so it's really cool. Thank you guys for your fan art. Still, it's like surreal to see people using their talents to draw fan art of my little gal. Thank you all again.